All right, so in this video, we're going to talk about why people stay poor and the hidden truths around poverty. After a long time of living in poverty, I lived in poverty with a single mom until I was 15, literally half of my life. It's more than just all about money. It's a lot more what you think. I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to have some facts to back it up. So, disclaimer, I'm not here to make a video to make you guys feel sorry for me. This is not a who's the poorest contest. I know there's different levels of poverty. I'm just going to talk about my experience with poverty and what I went through, and then talk about why this has a huge effect on other people as well. So, I was raised by a single mom until I was 15 in the projects in Northeast Ohio.
Yeah, we know you
Whoa,
had
whoa,
no
whoa,
money.
whoa.
We know you was broke.
Can I just tell my story first?
I'm just saying.
Chill.
Okay.
Thank you. I know there's different levels of poor. Like you can still be poor with two parents in the household, just two cars, and you're living paycheck to paycheck. But we were on the side of poor where we lived on all these government programs, food stamps, getting food from the Salvation Army, getting free lunches. And a lot of times we didn't know where our next meal was coming from. Pretty much living off ramen noodles, fried bologna, and cereal just from the basis. So let's talk about why people stay poor and hidden truths around poverty. Many people believe that being poor comes from making bad choices. They think if people just saved a little money, spend less on things like shoes and coffee, and worked harder, it could stop from being poor. But there is much more to the story. Poverty isn't always about how much money someone has or how they spend it. Poverty affects the mind and the way people think. Even how the brain works, it can trap people in the circle that's very hard to escape. Tell you right now, it's not just for one person, but it could be sometimes for entire families all across the generations. This is what people do not understand. Being poor can actually change how people make decisions. It can cause them to think differently and act ways to keep them poor. I'm gonna have some examples for that as well. And not because they want to, but because their brains are under a constant stress. Scientists have even done a study on this, and they found out that the stress of being poor makes it harder to think clearly, plan for the future, and make smart choices. So instead of seeing poverty as just something as a money problem, it's more accurate that you think as a mental and emotional challenge as well. So first, we're going to talk about poverty in America over other countries. Some people argue that poverty in America isn't real because most people that are poor, we still have a roof over our heads and some food and access to basic services, compared to other countries where people are in mud huts and have no plumbing, electricity. American poverty may look different, but it doesn't mean that it's easy or safe. Living in a public housing or the projects comes with its own challenges. You got all types of crime going on, poor education systems, bad health care, constant feeling of fear of worry, just bad things going on all over the place. If you notice in the projects, there's a liquor store everywhere, there's a gun store everywhere. There's a reason for that. They want to keep you in there. And now they break up the homes where you can't get the benefits when you have a father in the home now. You only get all the benefits if you're a single mother. So that kind of pushes single mothers to stay single mothers. These things add up and take a serious toll on a person's mental health, obviously. Even through the basic needs that might be met in some way, life in poor neighborhoods can be extremely stressful. People still rely on food stamps, food banks, free lunches. Summers without food meals can lead to families depend on the government for programs just to eat. And I've been in these situations for 15 years. When people grow up in the environment, it becomes normal to live in a survival mode, always worrying about what will go wrong next. The mindset stays with them even in their financial situation that improves later in life. And I remember living like this. I was always thinking, because I had the privilege to go to so I lived in the projects, but I went to a school where there was it was a better school, let's say that. And a lot of the kids, there was two parents in the household, everything in their house worked. So I always felt like something bad was always happening to me because I didn't have the things they had. I couldn't afford the things they could afford. I remember there was a lot of times where we were afraid to even go out the house. Like I'll literally come back home from school and stay in the house. But again, I was kind of a loner too, and I just liked my own peace. But I was really lucky to go to a better school. A lot of kids were very nice and accepting and accepted me for me and want to get to know me and my character. I never experienced that in the hood. People didn't really care about your character. They just cared if you were good at sports, because everybody wanted to be Michael Jordan, and then everybody wanted to wear Jordans, etc. So I found myself like staying out of trouble, doing sports, getting into basketball, which helped me stay out of bad situations, following around the wrong crowds and all that crazy stuff. So I'm really grateful that my mom put me into a better school with a better education. That really helped my mindset and helped fix what I had going on that these studies are going to show. But at the same time, I would go to school and I would come back home and I would be highly depressed. And I just didn't know why. But a lot of these kids, they didn't shun me for it. I know in the hood, it's always competition on who has the best Jordans, this and that back in the 90s. And it was really annoying trying to keep up with all this stuff without even having anything at all to show for. Next, we'll talk about the scarcity mindset, how poverty changes the thinking. Poverty is more than just have money. It's just about the mental. So one of the biggest effects of poverty is what researchers call the scarcity mindset. When people are poor, they're constantly focused on surviving, which you always feel like you're in survival mode. They worry about paying rent, buying food, handling emergencies. The pressure is called stress and takes over the brain. And it becomes difficult to think else, especially the future. So a study from Princeton University, found that being under financial stress can make a person's IQ drop about 13 points. This is a big deal. It means that someone who normally makes smart decisions might struggle when they're worried about money. In fact, the drop in the IQ from financial stress is greater than what happens in a person who haven't slept in 24 hours. This is crazy. This shows how powerful the stress of poverty can be. It's not just about being tired or sad. It's a real change in the brain function. So next we're going to talk more about the brain and the effects it have on the long term. There's another part of the brain which involves the prefrontal cortex. This is the area that helps people plan, solve problems, and make decisions. It doesn't fully develop until someone's about 25 years old, but when a person lives under stress for years, the prefrontal cortex can shrink. This makes it even harder for clearly or make good long-term choices. This means that the longer the person lives in poverty, the more damage their brain can take. That damage doesn't go away when someone just gets money. The brain can stay stuck in survival mode for years, even if it doesn't even need to be. That's why people who win the lottery or make a lot of money quickly often end up broke again. And you've seen a lot of, if you haven't seen, there's a lot of examples that's going on all the time. Their brains are still wired to think that someone who's poor, they might not trust banks, they might avoid investing, they might think everything's a scam or spend all their money just on feel better, temporarily type things, cars, furniture, clothes, etc. So people in poverty often have to make decisions that are different from people with money, obviously. For example, someone with a stable job and savings might not worry about a flat tire, but someone in poverty might have to decide whether fixing that tire or buying groceries. And I've been in situations where I was debating on filling the gas tank or getting my next meal. That pressure makes it easier, and you can't do both. You know what I'm saying? And that type of pressure makes it easier to make choices that seem small at the moment but have big consequences later. So the next fact check we have here, I'm going to leave all in the description that I'm saying right now so you can check them out as well. You want to fact check me. So a professor at the University of Chicago, Yuna Shah, ran a study using games that showed how this works. In his research, people have fewer resources in the game, kind of like being poor, focused on more carefully and worked harder. But they also made worse decisions over time because they were mentally worn out. They borrowed too much, made some risky moves, and ended up worse off than the people who had more and being with. This shows that poverty does not make people lazy or dumb. It simply just puts them in a situation where they have to use all their energy just to survive. So next I'm going to talk about why money is not enough. Giving people money isn't enough. The common idea that we should just give poor people money, and yes, extra cash can help, but especially in emergencies, but studies show in real life examples that money alone does not fix the problem. If someone has lived in poverty for years, their brain and habits may not even change because they have more cash. This can be seen as what happens to many lottery winners. They suddenly just get millions of dollars, but a few years later, they go back broke. Some even owe money. And why is that? Because they're having more money does not teach them how to use it. It doesn't undo the years and years of financial stress or teach them how to manage wealth. It's like the same reason professional athletes or musical musicians sometimes end up broke. And we heard a lot of stories about that. MC Hammer, I think Allen Iverson, etc. Even after making millions, without learning how to think about money differently, nothing really changes. So one of the hardest parts of this poverty cycle is the effects that it has on families over time. Studies of tax records have shown that if someone grows up poor, they're more likely to be poor as an adult. So if the child's parent don't make much money, basically they're saying probably the child won't either make that much money either at 30 years old, which is very sad. This doesn't happen because poor kids are smart or less hardworking. It happens because they grow up without examples. They may not learn about how to budget, how to save, how to invest. If someone around them struggles, they think that's how life is. So they just copy what they see. This is why entire families can stay in the same situation for generations, decades and decades. Even when someone in the family does get a huge amount of money, like from insurance settlement or lawsuit, they often spend it in ways that don't improve their life long term. They might just buy takeout every day, help struggling relatives, spend on things they don't really need. This doesn't even mean that they're bad with the money. It just means that they're using it in the only ways they know to make life feel easier, and temporarily though, even just for a little while. So next, we're going to talk about why is it so hard for people to escape poverty. So escaping poverty isn't just about getting a better job, saving money. It's not about changing how the brain works. So next, we're going to talk about why poverty is so hard for people to escape. So escaping poverty is not just about getting a job or saving money. It's about changing how the brain works, how habits form, how people think about the future. That's not easy. And the longer someone stays poor, the harder it is to overcome. That's why I named this channel My Wealthy Habits, because it's all about habits. That's the only way you can get out of these situations. And it takes a lot of time, because even when I got out of the projects, ended up staying with my dad on the other side of the Midwest, and he was like really successful, had a house and everything, wife. It still took me about over a decade to get my mindset right. Even though from the outside, people looking in thinking, oh, he's doing fine with his dad now, I'm still stuck in the other mindset from the projects. Like, this doesn't just, oh, I'm over there overnight. Like, it don't happen like that. It takes time to fix the damage of poverty that causes to the brain. It also takes education, support, and the real chances to succeed. But the truth is, most people, poor people, never get those chances. And if they do, they might not be ready to use them in the right way. This isn't their fault. It's the result of the years of being stuck in the system that makes them nearly impossible to win. Now, like, this ain't one of those videos where I'm like, oh, the system's rigged and all that. This study shows over years, professors have done research in universities as well. So lastly, I'm talking about what needs to change for things to get better. To truly help people escape poverty, we need to focus more on not just giving money. We need to fix the conditions that cause the poverty in the first place. That means improving the education in the poor areas, offer mental health support, teaching financial skills, and reducing the stress that keeps people trapped in survival mode. It's really huge about teaching financial skills. I feel like they don't teach that enough in schools. Instead of just sitting there memorizing dates and numbers, they need to teach more about life. So when you get in the real world, you're not clueless on taxes and everything. It's half backwards. But I'm not going to go into that. It can be a whole different video. We also need to stop blaming poor people for being poor. The truth is, anyone under constant pressure will struggle to think clearly or make perfect decisions. If we want to society where more people can succeed, we need to make it easier for people to think long term, stay healthy, and plan for the future in a nutshell. So at the end of all this, poverty is not just about money, like I've said before. It's all mental. And what goes on a lot in these neighborhoods, it's a lot of bad stuff going on, people getting hurt, and a lot of alcohol consumption, etc. And there's a lot of ways, a lot of dealers you can get caught up in. I live in Iowa right now, and I see a lot of people go downhill with drinking and driving and trying to stay sober. It's hard. It's a tough battle. And then once you get caught doing it, you got to pay all these fines. You're paying more money to the system. You're losing more money. Then they have to give you something. You have to blow in to start your car. You got to pay for that monthly. Not really sure how much, but I've seen a lot of people go through it, and you got to pay to get your license back. You just keep going down the hole. It is all these little mental decisions that you're making that's putting you more in the hole, that's going to make you poorer and poorer. And it's really hard to dig yourself out. It's more about stress, fear, and the way the emotions change the person's thinking. It affects and how it affects the brain, the body, and entire communities. People don't stay poor because they're lazy or careless. That's like one of the biggest things in society. Oh, they're just lazy. There's hard work people that's poor. They stay poor because the poverty itself is hard to escape. Breaking the cycle takes more than just one paycheck. It takes understanding, education, and time to heal the mental wounds that poverty has left behind. Until we treat poverty like the deep, complex problem it is, we'll keep seeing people trapped into the same situations from generation after generation. Well, I hope this video helps you understand why the poor stay poor. This is a subject I don't really talk about much, but you might joke around a dinner table with family like, hey, remember this back in the day, we used to do that, this and that, but we never dive deep on the real root cause of why people stay poor or why we were always stuck being poor. But I noticed a lot of people, like, they never get out. Like, I've been sitting around, walk around the projects, and be the same people doing the same thing for like 30 to 40 years, and I just got tired of it. But I was lucky that I had a family member that could pull me out. A lot of us don't have that. But if you're in a rough situation, I'll say do the best you can. Find a mentor, find somebody that's in a better situation that you can try to start getting habits from, learning more about how to manage money. Because in the long run, it's really going to help you out. I'm telling you. If I would have stayed in that project, I probably would never would. I wouldn't even be doing YouTube. I wouldn't even be making money online or anything. I wouldn't even have this house that I have, taking care of my family, my kids, all that stuff. I probably would have been caught up in all that stuff going on. Probably wouldn't end up in prison or something, or some crazy stuff. But yeah, hope this video helps. If you like it, subscribe, like, share if you want to. If you someone needs to hear this. If not, that's cool too. Well, that's all for this video. I'll see you in the next one.